Hey guys, so it is like 8 a.m. in the morning, so the light is really bright, and I do use natural light for filming, so I'm sorry if the light fluctuates because it's really stark. I'm also running my dishwasher and I'm sorry about that, but this is the only time I have to film, so I wanted to take advantage of it. And today we're going to talk about why I went vegan / how I feel about veganism after 5+ years of being on the vegan track, I'll say, because I haven't been fully vegan this entire time. I think I actually did upload a video a while ago explaining why I was vegan, but I definitely took that down. I don't even know if I know I did the vegetarian one. I did take that down. I don't remember if I did vegan, but if I did, it's not on the channel anymore. So I wanted to kind of update how I see veganism and explain a little bit of how I got on that track, because I know that a lot of the people that watch my channel are also vegan, or at least want to be vegan, and I get a lot of questions asking about how I did it as a teenager. So I want to explain that a little bit today. It's a really good matcha. But the thing is, I used to hate matcha. Okay, so let's start with why I personally went vegan. I did not have any intentions of going vegan ever. I did not grow up in a vegan household. I didn't grow up in a very health conscious household. I didn't grow up around people that were vegan. I randomly, one day when I was 15, saw a animal cruelty video on my YouTube, and I watched it. It was a 12-minute video. I can remember every single part of it, and I cried hysterically, and it freaked me out because obviously at that age you've heard about animal cruelty, but you don't really understand it because you're not exposed to it, and a lot of people aren't exposed to it. And seeing it really startled me, and it really shook me because I did not know to the extent it was being done, and the way that affected my diet, because you know that meat comes from a dead animal. You understand that, but you don't actually see the process that animal goes through to get to your plate. And having seen it, I couldn't support that anymore, and so I went vegetarian, or what I thought was vegetarian, overnight. I actually ended up going pescatarian, so a little mishap on my part. I didn't understand the difference because the animal cruelty video that I watched was only for land animals. It had nothing to do with sea animals or marine life at that point. But I went pescatarian overnight, and the next morning my parents would always make, or my mom would always make me breakfast, and she would always include some sort of meat because I was very, and still am, very underweight. And so one of the main things that my parents pushed on me in terms of diet was meat, ironically. And I told my mom, like, hey, I don't eat this anymore. And my parents kind of freaked out, and they weren't overly supportive. They weren't freaked out by the idea of me going vegetarian, but they weren't necessarily supportive of it because they were worried about my health, and they thought that meant that I was going to lose even more weight. But yeah, so I went pescatarian overnight, and I say that because I ended up eating, I worked at a restaurant where I ended up eating calamari, not understanding the fact that was not technically vegetarian, and once I learned the difference, then I stopped eating that too. That probably ended up happening within the same month, so I went vegetarian within that month, and then I was vegetarian for like, I don't know, like maybe 6 months before I started really learning anything other than what I already knew. I knew a little bit about the animal cruelty side, and I had been doing research about that, but I hadn't really delved into the health or the environment. And I had heard about the documentary What the Health, which at the time was relatively new. I was 15, this was around 2016, 2017, and I watched that documentary, and same thing, it messed me up. Like, there were just so many things I did not know, and so I wanted to go vegan at that point. I did not go vegan overnight. I took a number of months to go vegan. I couldn't tell you how many. I didn't count, and I didn't really have like a set time on how long it was going to take me to go vegan, but I ended up going fully vegan within a year of first changing my diet at all. So by the time I was 16, I was a full-fledged vegan. I do want to clarify, I was only ever, by my own self titled, a vegan. I was not gluten-free. I had no reason to be gluten-free other than if I just wanted to. I don't have celiac disease. I don't have any specific allergies or ailments to where I would need to alter my diet outside of just my own personal wants. There's a whole misconception that a lot of vegans are also gluten-free because they have to be by the definition of veganism, and you definitely don't, and I was not. When I first went vegan, was purely just, vegan, and I would eat according to plant-based, guidelines. And then I did a deep dive on the health, and I went down a rabbit hole of learning about way too much, way too fast at definitely a really young age. And I ended up being a preservative-free, dye-free, soda-free, there's something else I'm missing. I think aspartame-free and something else free vegan. All by choice, again, not because I needed to be, but because I did not want to consume those things. I'm more lenient on that now, and I'll get into this a little bit later in the video, but at that time, I was learning so much so fast, and because I didn't have people in my life that were necessarily helping me, I felt like I had to learn everything on myself or by myself, and that led to some overindulgent tendencies when it came to, again, doing too much too fast. So I ended up going low waste and zero waste and doing all these different things. I mean, I was like a hippie vegan to the core. So it was a lot. I was posting on social media. I mean, if you guys have been following me that long, you guys have definitely seen my Instagram stories. I was posting vegan content basically every single day on my stories. I was that annoying vegan girl in high school that would tell everybody like, hey, do you realize what you're eating? And hey, I mean, I was a part of a vegan club. I actually led a vegan club along with another guy. I was deep in veganism for a couple of my teen years. And along with that, for me, came a number of health issues, and that's why I'm going to explain how I view veganism now. But to just kind of overarch it, I initially went vegan for the animals. That was my starting point for anything. I just did not want to be a product of cruelty, and once I learned what that was and the many ways that my lifestyle was perpetuating those things, I had every reason at that point to stop. And it was simple. I mean, taking meat out of your diet, for me at least, was not a difficult thing. And so yeah, and then if I had to list them in order, I would say that for the animals, then for the health, and then for the environment. And I'm not really going to explain the environment but so much in this video, because I could do a whole separate video about all the things that go into my actual vegan journey, but I don't want to make this video a million hours long. So just say that initially it was for the animals, and then secondarily was for my health and the things that I learned. But it was a learning process for sure. Like, there were things that were easy about going vegan, there were things that were not so easy, and there were things that I did and I shouldn't have done. And when we talk about the health side of veganism, there are a million health benefits to being vegan. There's a lot of great things that come along with that for your body, but there are different things that you can do under the umbrella of being vegan that can be detrimental. And because I've always been underweight, and because I am anemic, and always have been anemic, I mean, even when I ate meat, there were a lot of things that I did, again, not understanding and not realizing because I was a teenager, that were problematic and that caused me issue with my health. I am someone that's really predisposed genetically to losing weight. I mean, anyone on my dad's side, we all are really on the slender side, and we've always been like that. And like I said, when I was growing up, my weight was a huge point of contention because my parents were scared for me. They were scared that I was going to develop health concerns due to the fact that I was so underweight. And going vegan usually results in weight loss anyway, just because you're not getting as much saturated fat. You're typically not getting as much fat in general. Then your body's taking a lot more water because of the things you're eating, fruits and vegetables. And so you usually lose weight just as a side effect. And that happened to me, and I did not have weight to lose. So that was, one thing. But then it was also, there were times where, I was a junk food vegan. There were times where I was a really healthy vegan, but so much so to the point where I didn't understand the amount of stuff that I was putting in my body and the different vitamins. Like, I was overloading on certain vitamins and then not having any of these other nutrients or different things at different times. And the whirlwind of phases that I went through with veganism caused me some pretty noticeable health problems. And let me just say, my health, everyone's health is specific to them, obviously. But the things that I'm talking about, if someone else were to go through the same things that I did when it came to the losing weight, it probably would not be as problematic for that person. Like, if I was someone that was 50 pounds heavier when I started my vegan journey, the things I'm talking about right now probably honestly would not be an issue. But I was 103 pounds when I started my vegan journey. And then I lost somewhere between 10 and 15 pounds throughout that time. And that was obviously problematic. And I got to a point where I was in somewhat physical pain because of the amount of weight I was losing. And I tried protein powders and protein bars. I tried upping my fat content. I tried a number of things still under the domain of veganism. And for me, nothing was working because I was already not in a position where my body wanted to gain weight. And so when you're trying to gain healthy weight, it's that much harder. Realistically, gaining junk food weight or gaining unhealthy weight is a lot easier. And so for the sake of not continuing to lose weight, I did go back to eating dairy. I think that was around COVID. I don't remember exactly when. And I went back to eating specifically dairy, not eggs, for a couple months. And then I weaned myself back off. And as soon as I weaned myself back off, I started losing more weight. And then it was this toggle between noticing there was no way I was going to maintain an even normal, or I shouldn't say normal, a semi, I don't want to say healthy either, a not horribly low weight without consuming dairy. And so the way that I am now is that I would say I still call myself vegan for the sake of the fact that I want to be vegan, and I live my life in a way that I think honors veganism a lot more than the average person. But do I consume dairy every now and again? Yes, I do. I recognize that there are going to be people that say, no, don't call yourself vegan, call yourself vegetarian or lacto-vegetarian. And I used to go by those terms at different points, but 99% of the time I'm eating vegan. It's very rare that I do have dairy. It's usually a special occasion, or if I'm out with friends and we can't find anything that's vegan and I notice like the only thing I've had that day are salads or really, really light foods, because again, I'm worried about my weight. And I only do dairy. I won't do eggs. I obviously don't do any flesh food. I don't even do gelatin. I will only ever do dairy. And typically that's in the form of cheese. I still know the health stuff behind that, so it still freaks me out every now and again, but it's for the sake of knowing that for my body and the way that it operates, I'm not going to be able to have a completely vegan lifestyle and be at a weight that is okay. I'm sure there's a way to do it. I'm just, from right now where I am in my life and the way that it works, I don't know how to do that. And it is something I want to work towards. It's just something that I need to do in gradual steps and to be careful about it, because I've done the I don't even know how to explain it. I've done like I just call it a rabbit hole. Like I've done the thing where like I look something up and then I go all in on that thing, and then I realize like, whoa, I went way too far on that thing. Like I don't want to say everything in moderation, because I do think that there are times where that term or that saying applies, and I think there's times where that saying should not apply. But when I say moderation, I mean in the fact that while I'm working to get to a place where I can have a fully vegan diet and a fully plant-based diet, I need to do that in a way that is realistic for me and it's sustainable for me, because I could do something that'll work for like a month or maybe even a year, but if it doesn't work for years and years, you know. And that's the kind of how I see it for everybody. Like I think that everyone is entitled to their own journey when it comes to veganism, and I think that a lot of people go through a lot of different things regarding their health or their environment, because I moved from, you know, the States to Barcelona, and what I can eat here is different than what I ate in the States. And so I think being fair-minded when it comes to seeing the way that somebody navigates veganism is the best thing that somebody could do for somebody else, because there's a lot of stigma within the vegan community about how people are vegan. Like there is a lot of this is the right way to be vegan and this is the wrong way to be vegan, and I had to learn to push that aside for my own sake, because I realized that I was feeding into that really, really hard, and I needed to stereotype myself in order to actually feel like I was a vegan, which I don't think is right. And the way I view it now is kind of just, I think that anyone that's interested in veganism is doing something good. Literally, if it's just watching a documentary, if it's watching or reading an article or listening to, you know, Earthling Ed or Joey Carbstrong, I think is how he says his last name, or Hudson Tarlo, like, you know, if it's educating yourself in any way, shape, or form about veganism, you're already, to me, like 10 steps ahead, because most people don't. And whatever changes that you make to your diet and however long that takes you, and whatever those diet changes look like, you know, that's great. It's great, because it really is, it's such a rewarding thing to do. Like, not just for the animals, not just for the environment, not just for your health, but just like literally anything and everything in your life. Like I do think honestly is made better by being vegan. And that might be like a really like bold statement, but I can't think of something like when you do it in the right way, a sustainable, gradual way, like I really do think your overall quality of life is better. Even if you don't stick to being vegan, I think that there's something to be said for learning about stuff, right? Like learning about what goes into the foods that you're eating and being more conscious of that, whether that's from the health side or from a manufacturing side or whatever, from an environmental side. I think that being conscious is the kind of the root of veganism in itself, whether that's you being conscious of this or this, like it's still you recognizing something and therefore changing something. And that's just kind of how I see it now. I think that veganism is great, and I think that veganism looks different to many people in many different ways, but I think that there is no right or wrong way to be vegan. I think that there is multiple right ways and multiple wrong ways, and that there might be some overlap for some different people, myself included, but that at the end of the day, as long as you're taking the time to understand why you're doing something, I think that that'll steer you in the right direction eventually.